This video is an introduction to Zentangling. So Zentangles are a fairly new drawing technique or style. And here's kind of a small example on the cover of this workbook of a Zentangle drawing. So this looks like a drawing of a compass, so an item that you would use to tell directions, but inside of the spaces of the drawing, they have these very detailed little designs. So it is a drawing technique and a design technique. It involves a lot of focus and time, and that's something that I think we need to work on in our art. So Zentangle is a compound word. It's made of two words, Zen and tangle. Zen means to be calm and to focus. Tangle means to doodle or design or draw. So to be focused while we draw is what Zentangling is all about. So I got this workbook, and I'll be doing a couple of the activities in here, and you'll be following along. But within the workbook, you'll see these patterns that are kind of color-coded. So right on the cover, it kind of tells you what we're going to do. We're going to start with a basic pattern, add a little bit more to it, add a little bit more to it, and then have a complete pattern that's filled in with a little bit of shading or a little bit of contrast of light and dark. So you can tell that it starts simple and grows to be a little bit more complex as we go. So a Zentangle pattern on its own could be an artwork. Some of the patterns, some of the artworks in here you'll see are just about the patterns. Some of the artworks in here are just a drawing that was filled in with patterns. So this is a portrait where they filled in the hair with some patterns, filled in the background space with patterns, and filled in the items with patterns. This is a drawing of a map, and then within each state they have a different pattern. So the patterns are one major part of the artwork, but it can also be used to add a little bit of detail and interest into the designs. So for our Zentangle lessons, we are going to need a couple of basic drawing items. You're going to need some paper and pens. I've got kind of an artist pen because I have a lot of these at my house, but you might have some pens that are more like this one. This is a ballpoint pen. You might have pens that like you get from the bank, or pens that you get, I don't know, from get free from some stores or places will give away free pens. You might just have pens laying around your house. Any kind of pen is great. It works fine. You'll also probably want a pencil to add some shading. I don't think we'll do any shading in this lesson, but as we get more comfortable doing Zentangles, we are going to work on adding a little bit of shading. And a marker might also help with filling in some of the spaces. So if you have a Crayola marker, I don't have a black one around here right now, but Crayola markers might work better because they won't bleed through the paper. The warm-up exercises in the book start with some very basic lines and shapes. It's asking you to turn them into patterns, and then from there you'll create some Zentangles by adding more lines and shapes and adding some light and dark spaces, either by shading in or leaving areas white. In the book, the patterns fill up the entire space. So our first step in creating a Zentangle is to break our drawing paper up into some different sections. So I'm using sticky notes to make my demonstration video not too long and to make this just a little bit easier for us. So I'm going to break it into 4 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different different lines that we're going to learn how to turn into Zentangles. So what I'd like you to do after you have your 4 sections on your paper is to create the pattern you see. So starting with lines, it looks like it's a tic-tac-toe kind of design or a cross hatch. We call that in art, it's called a cross hatch. And if I have all these lines, they need to go from the edge to the edge. So I'm filling up the entire first section with the lines. My other sections are going to be circles, waves, and then these ovals. So after you've got this is just a basic pattern. We want it to be more complex than basic. So one way you can do that is to just create a pattern by shading in. And I started by using my pen. This is going to take me like 6 years to fill in with a pen. I'm going to switch over to a marker. A marker is going to go a lot faster and it's going to look a lot nicer. We are using ink. We are using pen ink and marker ink, and you cannot erase ink. So that's where the Zen comes in. You need to focus, go kind of slow so that you don't make any mistakes. Okay, circles is the next one. So it looks kind of organized here. Like it looks like there's one circle in the middle, and then there's some circles going around it. Or you could just do polka dots going everywhere. But if you start it organized like I did, it'll look best if you finish it in an organized way. So I just put circles in between those ones, trying to evenly space them out, and then turn this into a tangle by making it more complex. You might have an idea in your head about how you would turn this into something more complex. And if you have an idea that's different from my idea, that is awesome. You're using your creativity. I think that what I'm going to do is just fill in all of the circles. So fill them in pretty quickly. It would also look neat to fill in just the background and leave the circles as the blue color of my sticky note. But I'm trying to get you to understand that a Zentangle is not a basic pattern. It is a basic pattern plus shading or plus another kind of line. In our next pattern, waves, I will demonstrate adding another kind of line. So I'll fill in this section with waves, and I'm going to have them go in a diagonal direction. And it looks like they have 2 lines for each wave. Kind of looks like rope or spaghetti. And I'm going to use that spaghetti inspiration to draw my next line. So I'm going to add some meatball shapes and put some circles in here. So I started with the basic pattern. I'm adding another shape to it. I'm adding circle shapes. So if you are still kind of having a hard time understanding what a Zentangle is, think about it as like a pattern plus a pattern. And then to make this more interesting, I'm going to fill in And the last pattern that I have to work with is this one called ovals. And this one already looks more complex than the other three I've been working with. So I'm going to break this down into the most simple lines that I can see. So starting off, I see there is a line pattern of straight lines crisscrossing each other. So just how I started this pattern, this Zentangle, I'll use those tic-tac-toe lines. So starting with the vertical lines, adding the horizontal. Then I'm going to add the curved line. So there's a curved line on each side of the straight lines that I drew. And don't forget to be zen about your tangles. I got a little bit rushed at this point and it looks kind of sloppy, but I can fix it by remembering to add some shading or filling in some of these shapes. So I'm going to fill in, and if I'm filling in the one I messed up, I need to fill in the other ones that would be alongside of it. Make it look like it was intentional. So if you make a mistake, how can you fix the mistake and make it either disappear or make it look like you intended to put that line there, fill in that shape? So I am filling in the curved space on the right side of all of them. And probably the tops.